And we're here with Blythe, Dr. Cleverly. I'm so excited she's here. Before we get started, I think we have a bunch of people joining us. Again, we can't see if you're joining us. We could just be talking to ourselves. Hopefully not. But if you're with us, put in the chat where you're joining from. It's always lots of fun to see where folks are hopping in from. It's been really, really gloomy here in the DMV area where I live all week. I feel like it's been like Transylvania weather outside. It's very foggy and gloomy. So hopefully wherever you guys are at today, it's not like that. If you're just joining us for the first time, I'll share that Unmuted is a podcast that I started. It's a live podcast featuring female leaders from around the globe. I've met a lot of amazing women in my 18 plus years of doing social impact work and connecting with others. And I want other people to know them too. So I'm really excited to have Blythe with us today. We actually met through, I did said this the other day in a post that we met through this. For me, it was like a really random networking group last year that I joined on LinkedIn, and it ended up being fantastic and connecting to me to a bunch of folks and taught me a lot of things also. There was a lot about LinkedIn that I learned. But yeah, Blythe, you were one of the folks I met there, and Susan I met there, McConnell, which was really wonderful, and Kuldeep. We've stayed in touch. So there have been some really great connections through that group. I'm really grateful that you're here with us today. I know every time we connect, Blythe, I learn so much from you. So I'm really excited for others to hear your voice and to be able to connect with you, right? So if you're here joining us, don't hesitate. If you have questions, thoughts, insights, put them in the chat. And drop your LinkedIn in the chat so that you can connect with each other. That's one of the larger points of Unmuted, is helping women connect with other amazing women. I see Kim in the chat. Hey, Kim, I'm so glad you're here today. I know it's really hard to make it in the middle of the day, so I appreciate it. And Bob, awesome. Thanks for joining from DC also. So really awesome. Well, I'm going to hand the stage over to you, Blythe, if you want to share with our amazing audience about yourself.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Paige. I always appreciate how heart-centered you are and considerate you are in both business and personal. For me, what I do is I'm a brain and behavior strategist or a consultant, and I work with people who have a very specific brain type, and they are highly analytical. And they often will describe themselves as overthinkers and often introverted, not always, but often. And I help them and those around them to basically translate between brain types so that they can learn how to communicate and be in the world, in this messy world, right? That's less than perfect, and help them navigate that.
That's incredible. How did you get into that work? How did you know that was your calling?
Well, because I knew it was my brain. So I have that same brain type, that overthinking brain type. I actually finally named it. I call it, the metacognitive neurotype, because we even think about our own thinking. It's exhausting. And so I knew that I had to control my own mind. And so I figured, I devoted my life basically to doing that, and thought, this is what I need to help other people do, right? Because your challenge in the end becomes your purpose and your mission.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, that makes it much more deeply rooted in the work you do each day, right? I love that. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm just looking at the chat. We have folks from all over the world joining us, Blythe. Hey, Kelly, I'm so glad you made it. I'm so glad you made it. And Gatanga, I'm so glad you're here. And Emmanuel, so glad you guys were able to join us today. We're just diving in with play. So why don't we start with our first question? How's that sound?
Sure.
Should we get started? And for folks just joining us for the first time, I've been asking all of our guests, we're on episode 14 today, I've been asking all of our guests the same questions. And it's been a beautiful journey, honestly, to see over the past 13 podcasts, like the the common themes that people experience, that women experience in leadership, or the differences, and just the lessons learned. It's really fantastic to see all of that. I know when I go back and look at folks' videos, because that's my personality. Like, how did that go? Oh, that's right, they said that. That's amazing. Really good insights. So we'll continue to distill those and share those out, because I know Blythe will have lots of those today also. So for our first question, what mindset shift did you have along your journey that has shaped the way you lead today?
I think the biggest mindset shift that I had was learning how to lead my own mind. So taking full ownership of my mind and leading it instead of it leading me. And that journey for me started back to when I was 15 years old, even. And I used to say, Paige, that my mind was a dangerous neighborhood and I dared not walk it alone, right? And
Oh,
then I
wow.
realized, it's like, okay, if my mind is a neighborhood, then I must be the mayor. Like, it's my neighborhood, I own it, right? So I have the right and the responsibility to take governance, to actually lead it, to sit in the big chair and write the rules and do what needed to be done in order to get me where I wanted to go in life. Because I didn't like the dark alleys that my mind was going down.
Mm,
And so that governance, everything starts with governance, right? Realizing how to lead yourself before you lead anybody else, taking ownership that hey, this is mine. I need to do something with this. And so I started looking into, self-help books and all of that, even at a young age. And EQ is very important. But for people with this mind, right, this metacognitive neurotype, upstream of EQ sits what I call CMQ, and that's a cognitive mastery quotient,
mm.
right? We know we have IQ, that's not a problem. EQ, we need to adapt and learn. But CMQ, you need to control your thoughts before you control your emotions. So that became something that changed everything once I began to realize this. And I've been doing it for years, although I didn't develop like an assessment for
Mm.
CMQ recently. But that was the first big shift, was becoming the mayor of my mind.
I love that. Mayor of my mind.
Yeah.
Blythe, that's beautiful. It sounds like the title of a book or something.
Oh, I think it will be. I think
I
it will
love.
be,
Yeah, I mean, what you just shared, when you break it down, it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course. But then, we don't often break it down, and we don't
Mhm,
often take the time to think about those things. We hear IQ, EQ, that
mhm,
other level. We don't get there to it. I think we engage with those things almost in a passive way. And I love the
mhm,
way that you have really made it your life's work. It's so cool and beautiful, and I think really needed, especially right now,
mhm,
in society, of like, what drives you? Who are you? Yeah, that's awesome.
mhm, mhm.
Jane, I just saw that you were able to join. Awesome. Jane from London, I think you will really appreciate this conversation with Blythe. Y'all should definitely connect. Blythe, Jane and her partner Jenny are doing this beautiful conference in London, I think at the end of this month. Yes, March. We're already in March. Um, and it's around collaborating with different brain types, different personality types, and being able to facilitate those rooms. So just really cool work they're doing. Made me think of
Mm,
that. So I'm really glad you could join, Jane. All right, our second question. What is a risk that you've taken in your journey? Um, and what gave you the courage to take that risk?
mhm. Well, when I think about like in the work that I've done, for example, the risk was taking on clients from vastly different backgrounds. So people
Mm,
dealing with addiction, elite athletes, CEOs, leaders, founders, and even celebrities. And while trusting that underneath of that, they all shared the same brain type.
mm,
So my ideal client, my niche, is working with this brain type. And they could be in many different situations, but as if they have that same brain, then I know how to help them. And for a time, I felt, okay, well, you have to have had addiction to help addiction. And that's not really the case. Although, if we're all honest with ourselves, there's something that we all do, and it's individual to each one of us, that makes us feel just a wee bit better, right? So we all have some sort of addiction, whether we want to admit that or not.
Yeah.
And we can understand that craving and that urge, but that need to escape, if they have that as a means to escape their own thinking, right? We all choose something that helps us get through that. So I didn't have to have an addiction to cocaine in order to help somebody who had addiction to that. Although, mind you, I did a lot of research and talked to a lot of people to fully understand them. But it's the same thing with fame. I'm not a celebrity, but I can understand the pressures that they went through. Having this brain type, I can say, what would that be like for me if I was in their shoes with this brain, with this mind, right? So, and I learned from being at the Amen clinics and being a practitioner with them and seeing brain scans, how we really are different. It's not just a personality thing.
Hmm.
Like, there's certain areas of the brain that light up more for us. There's certain things, there's certain diagnoses that often we have, or we may not have, but we suspect. Right? I don't diagnose or treat disease, but I say that often we're neurointense, right? So
Mm.
the volume is turned up on us for a lot of different things. But working with clients from different walks of life, whether I was in their exact shoes or not, we're all in the same shoes with this brain. And I didn't need to have their exact story to be able to help them. And that courage that you asked about came from a deep wanting to alleviate suffering,
Mm.
because that's my why. I was never positive if we deserved happiness, let's say, but I knew that we didn't deserve suffering. And this brain type, can suffer a lot. We,
Hmm.
we are the problem solvers of the world. We can make the biggest difference in the world. If we lead ourselves with governance, we can make the biggest, you know, the fastest, the most wonderful changes in the world. But if we don't get ourselves under control, then we'll go to dangerous places in our village, right? In our mind, and that lead us to the brink of a cliff or a bridge. Let's
Hmm.
see. I wanted to save lives, and that gave me the courage to help anybody who had this brain type.
Hmm. I love that. You talked for a second. You mentioned this briefly, and this is something I didn't know about you. Tell us more about the Amen Clinic. Did I say that right?
Yes. So Dr. Daniel Amen is well known as one of the leading, doctors for brain health, and he has a huge following. And there's 5 clinics, I believe, in the United States. You can go and get your brain scanned, and there's some videos on my YouTube where I talk a bit about that. But it led me to understand so much more about myself, and other people. I went there, as part of one of my doctorates to learn more about how to help people, but it ended up helping me as well. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get dementia, for example. That was my family history. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
see that in the brain 20 years before your symptoms begin to manifest, and you can actually control that in some cases, right? And you can see where I could see areas where my brain had been damaged from
Mm.
things, also where I had healed it. It appears as shadows, and but there's other areas that I could not heal because there was an impact when I was a child, and part of my brain is actually missing, Paige. Um, so
What?
it's something I know I have not shared with you.
That's incredible. You are
Yes.
so incredible.
And so, you adapt when something like that happens. And so they did a QEEG on me to determine how did I get through life, and realized that in actuality, it developed certain abilities in me that we can all cultivate, but we don't usually. But I had to in order to survive. So it lit up all my psychic centers, and it gave me the answer as to why I tend to know things that other people don't know, that I've had that ability throughout my life. So it solved a lot of mystery for me.
That is incredible.
Hmm.
So Can anyone go to one of those centers and have their brain scanned?
Yes, yes, you can. Yeah, it's um, as you can imagine, it's not a cheap procedure, but it's certainly
I know, I'm like,
worthwhile.
does insurance cover this?
Generally it doesn't, but
Yeah.
each person is so individual that I
Mhm.
can't really answer that question.
That
But
is so
I
neat.
recommend it, especially if you've had a TBI, a traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
If you're worrying about any cognitive diseases,
Mhm.
he's studied, the people who've been into the military, for example.
Mhm.
He knows more than a lot of different people do about things, and even how, somebody who has PTSD and
Mhm.
that treatment for that and TBI are different.
Mhm.
So understanding things very carefully. He has a memory program for those that are worried about dementia. He does his
Mhm.
own stuff, and
Oh,
he talks a lot. I follow him on, well, I think he's on platforms
yeah.
pretty much,
Yeah,
and videos.
that's amazing. Yeah, dementia and Alzheimer's, is in my family, and so just making me think now. Blythe?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it was huge for me. And so I also wrote an article about how my mother losing her mind saved mine. And because that was all of my family on both sides seemed to have had it either early onset, frontal lobe dementia, or late onset Alzheimer's. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get this disease. There are things you can do to prevent that.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, like, research is catching up. People are paying attention now, which is so needed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm just learning more and more about you. Love this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our last question.
Mm-hmm.
What is a leadership lesson? I used to frame it that you had to unlearn, but now I like to say that you chose to unlearn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what's a leadership lesson that maybe you were taught along the way that now you've chosen to shed?
You know, I don't know if we were all specifically taught this, but we all kind of come by it naturally that we assume that people think the same way we do.
Mm,
And that is something that definitely needs to be changed. We need to learn something different about that because that assumption leads directly to misunderstanding. And we each see the world very differently. Some so much so that translation is needed. And that's what I say. I'm a translator between brain types. We're taught that leadership also meant that everybody was going to think the same way, and it's good if they do. But true innovation and brilliance doesn't come from same mind thinking. It comes from diversity. And with when you do embrace the fact that people think differently than you and stop assuming that they think the same way that you do, and so they did this because if I did that it would be because I was thinking this. If we stop doing that, if we unlearn that pattern of um, misdiagnosis of a situation, that
mm,
would be very helpful. I think the other thing too is that we have this assumption that people who change the world, who are the greatest leaders, are super charismatic. They're extroverts and they love being around people. When in actuality, Paige, I think that the majority of founders and people that I've known that change the world are people who sit and think by themselves. They may not be charismatic, they may not have those people skills, right? But they're thinking in a different direction. And so I think to let go of the misconception we have that we have to have a certain personality and a certain brain type and a certain way of fitting in order to be a great leader or to make a difference. No, we need to understand each other. We need to be open to understanding each other, but know thyself and be okay with who you are, even if you are introverted, even if you have difficulty with people skills, and
mhm.
move ahead, right, with whatever ideas you have. And it's okay that you don't have same mind thinking. In fact, know that you probably don't have same mind thinking.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I had so many thoughts going through my head as you were talking. Um, just thinking about you were talking about how it's okay for leaders, like understanding it's okay to have this personality, it's okay to feel this way. And then also thinking about how that translates to their teams. If it's somebody who is, let's say, managing people or has a team of people who is looking to them, that not only is it okay that you're the way you are, but also
Mhm.
to recognize that they aren't going to be like you.
Yes, and get help with it, right? Like you can't be expected to understand the language of other brain types unless you've studied that. And
Right.
so for me, like I do a lot of translating between men and women's brains. When I do couple counseling, I do translating between, neurotypical and neurodivergent brains. It needs to happen. There's something that happens in corporate, especially. I call it the Sheldon effect. And if you've
Mm.
watched The Big Bang, you know what I'm saying,
I know.
right?
Yes, we love that show.
Brilliant but difficult contributors, usually high value people that they've acquired at quite a price, and then letting go of them, backfilling is going to be even harder, right?
Yes.
Even more expensive. So there's certain things that can be done there, to help them translate between different brain types and to preserve those relationships, preserve the teams, build trust again, keep your good people. But you need to learn how to do that, right?
Mhm. I think you brought up something really important, and that's like in your work, you really help companies or organizations or leaders, like not just with themselves and knowing themselves and learning themselves and accepting and those things, but also like reducing turnover,
Yes.
burnout, frustration, like the expense of all of those costs, essentially. So
Hmm.
that's just incredible. I wonder, I mean, what has been your experience when you go in somewhere and it's just like all these light bulbs going on, or people are like, wow, I was really going to let that person go and was very, nervous about how I was going to achieve this goal or get this thing done with that person gone, or even
Right. Well,
rehire because of the cost.
yes. Oh, a huge cost. I've talked with a number of leaders who first off, they didn't understand what the problem was. They thought this person just had, a bad personality. They
Yeah.
were uncooperative and they were intentionally uncooperative. And so they didn't realize the problem was a translation problem. It wasn't an attitude problem. And so they didn't think there was a solution. And that's
Mm,
what I've run into the most, is that they don't know the problem and they don't know that there is a solution. I know there's a solution because the way I got into that originally was people started coming to me. Often they were engineers or they were at a tech firm, and they were like, I'm going to get fired, or I'm going to quit because I can't do this. Like, and I don't understand people. And they would come to me and I'd help them to
mhm,
navigate, and then everything got better at that company, right? Through them, through what I was teaching them. And I thought, why don't I go directly to the corporation and say, I know you have these people, I know you need this help, and you have a bigger budget than individual people that are
mhm.
coming to me and paying out of their own pocket, right? I can make a bigger impact this way, and it's more fair to everybody to do it that way. So that's been my experience with that.
And are companies receptive? I hope they are, because you're bringing such this huge value. I mean,
Hmm.
it's it's
But
enormous.
a lot of leaders, they do not believe, again, that there is a solution to it. Or by the time that they've called me, there's been so much damage done in the
Yeah,
company that
yeah,
now that person has to be let go. But
yeah.
sometimes that can be repaired, right? It
Mhm,
depends what stage we're at with
mhm.
that. But either way, it's good to have me in there because we can avoid more miscommunication. We can correct the damage that was done. We can teach people. And so you can let go of that person. But if you want somebody who has these innovative ideas and who has that engineering analytical mind, you're going to end up with the same issue again.
Yeah,
So
yep, unless
it's better to
someone who's
learn.
checking the box, following along. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
So I do like neuro integration, where basically I teach everybody involved, okay, this is not personal to you. And I teach them not to assume that they think the way that you do. And I teach leaders how to lead properly with different people of different brain types. And this is becoming so much more prevalent that if you're a
mhm.
leader today, you'd better learn it. That's all I'm
No,
saying. You'd better learn.
what is the takeaway for someone who's listening right now that maybe is like really struggling with someone in my office, or, I think I'm, working with someone who has this brain type? What would,
Yeah.
what would a takeaway be for them today?
Don't take it personally, honey. Don't take it personally. So it's not about you. And they're not necessarily trying to be difficult, and you think that person is intentionally, being like this. And if it's difficult for you to be around them because they're highly analytical, imagine how difficult it is for them to be in their own mind.
Mm.
You can get away from them, they can't get away from themselves.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Right, so maybe have some compassion, show some interest, and say, what I was just curious what that meant, or what do you, how can I help you, tell them, give them a compliment, because when was the last time they ever got one? And
Ooh.
be their friend,
The
right? And then maybe
is
you'll see that they're not trying to be, difficult or make your life miserable. And I'm sorry if they are. I'm sorry if they are. I'm going to apologize on their behalf. For all of the people who have this metacognitive neurotype, we are sorry that, we do come across that way. We apologize.
Blythe. Apologize. You're carrying a lot of weight there.
I'm Canadian, I'm going to apologize.
I love that though. I love that. Because it makes up so many different people in the world. Oh, I just saw Jennifer jump into the chat. Hi, Jennifer. So cool to see you. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Just so many things that we can each do in the spaces that we're in. I mean, whether it's work or our personal life. I mean, we interact with so many different people. It's easy also to just sit in yourself. I always tell my kids, and they're like, "Oh, my hair is terrible," or "This is bad." I'm like, nobody's worried about you. They're worried about themselves. People are
So true.
usually
So
so
true. But
concerned,
you know
Yeah.
and while we apologize for the misunderstandings that happen because we communicate differently, at the same time very unapologetic for having the brain type, because look at the innovations that have happened and the things that have saved many lives, and a lot of the leading in science has happened from this brain type. So in the end, you'll be glad that we're around, because we do make your life better, even if you don't realize that, in different ways, right?
Well, it takes all sorts to make the world go round. You just made me think of something else I saw the other day. It's a fellowship. It's called at the Bellagio Center in Italy, and it's for different like artists and philosophers and writers, or different different types of individuals that they really seek out to bring together, that are doing some sort of good in the world. And they get their own personal like studio space to create and innovate and design. And it just made me think of that, like that. I feel like there are spaces in the world that exist for people who have incredible gifts to share. And I'm just so glad that there are people out there like you, Blythe, who are doing this work, that are committed to this, because it's really important. And I think I already said it once here in the space, but it takes a lot of different people to make this world work. And what a boring place it would be if we were all the same.
This is true. Yes.
Yeah,
We should go to Italy. Let's plan our trip then, Paige.
let's do it. I'm down. I know. I was like, oh, I didn't think this was in Italy. This is awesome. No wonder the view is so beautiful.
Hmm.
Well, this was wonderful. I just wanted to acknowledge a few other folks in the chat. Marjorie, thanks for joining. And Jane, I hope you're still here. Jennifer, so beautiful to see you. Really awesome you joined. I know it's hard for folks sometimes in the middle of the day. Before we part ways, I also wanted to share that I'm launching a program for social entrepreneurs. It starts in April. It's called Spark Catalyst, and it's really a 3-month intensive to get people who are thinking about consulting or starting their own social entrepreneurial business, but aren't really sure. Or maybe you're ready and you just really need that accountability and support. And so I've created a program around that. So check that out. Blythe, it was so wonderful to have you. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope folks connect with Blythe, please. She is on LinkedIn and in other spaces, obviously, all over the world. I learned right before we joined, she's quite the world traveler. So yeah, just thank you so much, Blythe. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Paige. People can reach me at drcleverly.com and they can take that free assessment there if they want to as well. And it's been lovely
Beautiful.
talking.
Oh, I love that. drcleverly.com. So go there and take the assessment. It's awesome. And connect with me on LinkedIn. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks.